All right, welcome to the tutorial for using Inkscape to create the acrylic portion of the Edge Lit acrylic project. So, where to begin? Well, first of all, you'll have to have access to Google and Inkscape. So on the screen right now is Inkscape. It's a program that's free for download. It's a scalable vector graphic or SVG type program, and it's for manipulating graphics, and it's very well suited for things like our laser. So when you first open Inkscape, you'll see this very complicated interface, and we'll use a very small bit of it, but it does take a little while to learn all that Inkscape has to offer. But as I say, we'll just be using a small bit of it, and if you can just follow along, you should be fine. So, place to actually begin would be opening up your browser, which I'll do now, and going to Google and starting to think up what kind of an image you might like for your edge lit acrylic project. And I think the image I had in class was, I don't know, it was a Disney character. So say I wanted a Disney character. So Disney character, oop, is what I'd type in. And here we go. Now, a few tricks that we'll want to be using for this is we want to get a pretty simple image. A simple image works best for the edge lit acrylic project. So if I go up to images here on Google and select that, now I'm just limited to images, and most people know that much, but a lot of people don't go to this area here. It's the tools. So we'll click on tools and we'll see what's available here. One of the things we want is a pretty large or a large photo, which is a high resolution photo. So let's pick that and see what that limits us to. And then the other part is over here under type, what you want to pick is a clip art right there. That helps simplify the pictures that they're offering. And then we could have a look at these, and we have to think that the size of our edge lit acrylic piece of acrylic will be 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So what might look good if you get a very long narrow photo, it might not show up very well. It would appear like a band because we're working with something that's square. So an image like this over here is pretty square. Maybe that would work. But a simple image is best. So this is pretty complicated. It might look nice, and maybe maybe we'll try this one. So I'm going to click on this one here. Another Disney character image for my nightlight. All right, what you want to do with your image is right click on it and choose Save Image As. Now we need to save it to a location where you can find it. And where you can find it is probably in your documents in your robotics folder, because you should have created one, and that's where your files should go so you can stay organized. In my case, I'm going to call this Disney Characters, which I apparently already seem to have. On the desktop is where I'm going to keep this file, and I'm going to hit save. It's going to ask me if I want to replace it. I'll say yes. All right, so now I have it on my desktop. Once you have your image, now it's time to head over to Inkscape. So let's do that. In Inkscape, what you want to do is head up to File, and then you're going to Import. So that's very important, File, Import, and then you're going to find where you put it, and it was here for mine. And I should be able to find it right there, and do that. This window will pop up, just accept all the defaults, push OK. And there I have it. Now, see this outline that was previously there? That represents a standard photocopier piece of paper. It's a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So you can look at my picture and it's really big. Again, the size we're going to be making of the acrylic insert, the size of the acrylic insert is 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So obviously this picture's too big and we're going to have to make it smaller. So to make it smaller, you grab one of these handles and you drag, you hold down the mouse button and you drag, but don't do that until you've put on this little lock up here. These two boxes represent the width of your picture, which is currently 10 inches wide, and height of my image, which is 9.55 inches wide. If I lock this, I can maintain the aspect ratio, which is what they call the height to width ratio, or width to height, and we drag this down like that. And now you can see the numbers up here have changed significantly. They're not small enough yet because it has to fit inside 2.5 by 2.5. So it's got to be smaller than 2.5. Well, it's getting pretty small. Okay. So if I go back up to these numbers, you can see it's 2.41 by 2.3, which is less than 2.5 by 2.5. So I can adjust it later, but I'm going to stop there now. And I can hover over top of my image, and you see I changed to that four direction sort of cross pattern on my cursor. That means if I hold down, I can move this. So I'll just move it up conveniently up there. Okay, so there's the first step. If I hold Control on my keyboard and scroll on my middle mouse button, I can zoom in. It will zoom in wherever you put the cursor or the mouse. So there. So if I zoom in there, if I put the cursor way up here, I'll zoom in up there. And then I'll zoom in here. Okay, that's kind of handy. Okay, my next step is to make a box that is exactly 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches around this image, because that's what the laser will cut. So to do that, you head over to the side and you choose the box or rectangle tool. Click on that and then head out to your image or your page. Draw out by holding down the mouse button some box size. Now, this isn't the best demo. I'm going to back up on this for a second and delete my box and change something so you can see it. And that's this object. I'll talk about this in a moment. Fill and stroke of the object, which is over here. And I'm going to change a couple parameters so that we can see things better. One parameter will be this one. That'll work. And then we'll just change this one to, there we go. So you can see the box better. Maybe it's a bit too much. Okay, I'll call it that. Okay, we'll talk about what I did there in a second. So I have this box, and the box needs to be 2.5 by 2.5. So what I do is I select it using my pick tool up here. So if I use this tool, I could either pick my image or I could use this tool to pick the box, just like that. Then with the aspect ratio unlocked, because I'd like to tell it what the height and width should be, I'm going to unlock that aspect ratio lock, and I'm going to just punch in 2.5 by 2.5. Now that worked out really well, except it's off screen, so I'll bring it over now. There we go. That worked out really well. It's a 2.5 inch box by 2.5 inch box. Yours might be looking different, and that could be because over here, I haven't talked about this yet, these are the units, and I just happen to be on inches for 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. You might be on, I don't know, pixels. Let's see what it looks like if I pick pixels. And I'm going to change it to 2.5 by 2.5. And if you know anything about pixels, you'll know they're like the tiniest little dot on your screen. So if my box is 2.5 pixels by 2.5, look what happened. It's really small. And in fact, if I unpick it, you can hardly see it. So the unit we choose is really important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and change it back to inches, as you should. And then I'm going to pick my box and then go back to 2.5 by 2.5 inches. Again, that's the size we need our piece of acrylic to be. There we go. Okay. Now, the box looks really kind of fat, so I'm going to pick it again with my pick tool, and I'm going to head to, pretend this wasn't open, Object, and then Fill and Stroke. So the box and the image in Inkscape are considered objects, so I'm changing something about the object by going under here. And then I'm going to change the parameters of the fill and stroke, which are essentially the pen, how thick the line is and what color it is. So I pick that, and you should see this little dialog box pop up over here. What I'm going to choose first is the fill tab, just to show you what it does. For this project, we're not going to use it, but I'll show you what it does. So if I choose the fill tab and I pick a solid fill, I get a fill according to these colors. So if I want the fill to be blue, and this stands for red, green, blue, and this is the transparency down here. If I want it to be blue, I'd move this up. There's my blue fill. If I want it to be green, I'd move that up. There's a green fill. And if I want it to be red, of course, I could fill it red like that. All the way red, it becomes solid red. Okay. Or you could do a combination of it and make almost any color possible just by using red, green, and blue. Your television screen actually does that. Uses red, green, blue LEDs to combine and make all the millions of colors that are so amazing on the TVs these days. Okay, but our box, we don't want it to be filled. We want it to be empty, so we'll switch fill off. Now let's head over to this next tab, stroke. Now stroke is the color of the pen I use to make this box. Now this is very important if you want the laser to cut, and we do want it to cut the box. The stroke needs to be 100% red. So red, 100% on the red scale is 255. You can either say it was there, it's not totally red. You can either push this little slider all the way up, or you can just key in 255. And then it goes 100% red. Leave the green off, leave the blue off by leaving them at 0. And the transparency also has to be at 255 because that makes it fully opaque. If I pull this back, you'll see it gets very fadey. And that might be good for something you're working on, but it doesn't work for the laser. The laser needs to see 255 red, and it needs to see opaque right there. Okay, so one piece of information the laser looks at to decide whether it should cut the line is whether it's red, as we just discussed. The second piece of information is the thickness of the line, which is the final tab here. It's called the stroke style, and we're going to make the line inches, and the size is 1/1000th of an inch, which happens to look like this, 0.001. That's 1 in the thousandths column. So that's the size, and I'll hit enter, and look what happened. Where'd my line go? Oh, I can sort of see it, and if I scroll in on it, oh, there it is. It's just really, really thin. If you take an inch and divide it into 1,000 parts, one of those parts is how wide that line is. It doesn't really matter. It's just telling the laser, hey, I'm red, I'm 1,000th of an inch, cut me. That's all it needs to know. Okay, so that is a cuttable line. These are not red and 1,000th of an inch. These will not be cut. They will be engraved. Now, the last step we're going to do is we're going to pick that box, and we're going to pick this image at the same time by holding down the Shift key while you're picking the two items, and that picks both. Then we're going to head back up to Object, Align and distribute the objects. Up here in the top, we can align and distribute our objects in various ways. The way we need today is centered vertically and centered horizontally. Now, magically, those two have become one, and our image is now perfectly centered inside our box. Now, I say perfectly. Notice if I was to make this, Donald's hand is like right at the edge of the cut, and the tail over here is not quite to the edge. So what I could do is pick the image, the Disney image, and notice also it's bigger, the Disney image that I just picked, than my cut line. That actually can cause problems. It can get in the way of the cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll out a bit and make sure my aspect ratio is locked, and I'm going to shrink my Disney image so it fits inside my cut, just like I did before. Okay, it looks like it's a little bit too big still, so I'm going to bring it down a little bit more. Oh, come on. There we go. It's fighting me a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to line and distribute again. Shift, holding Shift while I pick both. Center line them. That looks like it fits a little better inside my cut box. So that would be my finished project right there. I would save this, File, Save. It's taking a moment, it's thinking. There we go. I save it to my robotics folder, but in this case, again, I'm just going to save it to my desktop because it's just handier on this computer. So here we go, desktop. And we'll call this Disney Laser Ready. But it's not quite laser ready. I'll tell you about that in a second. But see the file type I'm saving it as? That's Inkscape's file type. It's called an SVG. And if I save it like this, I can always open this file and re-edit it in Inkscape. So that's one save. So we'll hit save. And now I've got it. And up here in the top, it changed to tell me that's the name of the file because I hadn't saved it till this moment. There we go. The next step is for the laser. We're going to go File, Save As, and the laser likes not an SVG file, but a PDF file, like this. And the PDF file, I'm going to give it the same name. It's just got a different file extension. So I'm just going to save it to the same place, desktop, save. You're going to have to save your PDF file to the school share under Robotics 8 inside a folder with your name on it. So I'll show you in class how to make a folder in that. But we're all going to have a folder there so that when we send things to the laser, we can get them at the laser by accessing the school shared drive and then going to our own folder and opening it up, and there's our file. So that'll be the goal. Always accept defaults. So it's going to come up with this when you're making a PDF, and just say OK. And now I have a portable document format, which is a PDF file of this image. And if I went to open it on my desktop, which you can't even see my desktop, so I'll head over here and I'll find it for a moment. Hang on. You can't see anything, but that's okay. And Disney character. Oh, this is the worry of having too many things on your desktop. You can't find anything. Okay, I think I found Disney character. And I just got to find Disney character PDF. Oh, found it. Laser ready. If you open it, Disney Laser Ready PDF opens in Adobe Reader. That's exactly what we want. And see, it's ready to go. And the next video would be to show you how to take this and create it at the laser. All right. Hope you were able to follow along with this. If you're not, slow that video down, back it up, pause it if you will, but you should be able to work through this. Don't forget, if you're having trouble, if somebody next to you is ahead of you and has managed to do what you're working on, ask them for help. Good luck, and looking forward to see some cool images.